How did Alexander's reality engineering method reshape entire civilizations? Let me ask you something that might blow your mind. What if the greatest conqueror in history didn't win because of military tactics, but because he mastered something far more powerful? Alexander the Great understood a principle that most high performers today still miss completely. Reality doesn't happen to you, you engineer it from within. At 20 years old, Alexander inherited a mess. His father was assassinated, his kingdom was surrounded by threats, and the Persian Empire was the superpower of the ancient world, controlling wealth and armies beyond imagination. Logic said he should play defense, consolidate power, and survive. But Alexander's mind operated on a different frequency entirely. He didn't react to reality, he designed it. Here's where it gets fascinating. Alexander had a mental practice he called pre-living. Before any major campaign, he would spend days mentally inhabiting the future he wanted to create. Not just visualizing victory, but literally experiencing every sensory detail of success in his mind. The smell of victory celebrations, the weight of conquered crowns, the sound of his name echoed across continents. Modern neuroscience calls this mental rehearsal, and brain scans show it activates the same neural pathways as actual experience. But Alexander took it further. He didn't just pre-live outcomes, he pre-lived obstacles. He would imagine every possible failure scenario, then mentally overcome each one, building solution pathways before problems even emerged. By the time he faced Darius III at the Battle of Issus, his brain had already solved that puzzle 1,000 different ways. His mind was pre-wired for success. Think about how radically different this is from how most people operate today. We wait for challenges to appear, then scramble to find solutions under pressure. Alexander built the solutions first, then walked into challenges already equipped. That's not luck, that's engineered high performance. And here's the mind-blowing part. You can build this exact same mental framework starting today. The core principle is simple but profound. Your brain cannot distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. When you mentally rehearse success with enough sensory detail, you're literally programming neural pathways of excellence. Alexander understood this 2,300 years before we had the neuroscience to prove it. He was hacking human performance before we had language for it. Now ask yourself, what would change in your life if you spent even 10 minutes daily engineering your reality before it unfolds? What if you stopped reacting and started designing? This is the first layer of Alexander's mental code, and it's available to anyone willing to do the internal work. Drop engineer in the comments if you're ready to start designing your reality instead of reacting to it. What's the first goal you're going to mentally rehearse today? Hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden performance strategies. Why Alexander's adaptive certainty beats modern planning every time. Here's something that sounds contradictory, but reveals everything. Alexander was simultaneously the most prepared and most adaptable leader in ancient history. While others chose either rigid planning or chaotic improvisation, he mastered what I call adaptive certainty, a mental framework that's pure gold for modern high performers. Most leaders in Alexander's era followed detailed battle plans and fell apart when reality didn't cooperate. Alexander did something revolutionary. He prepared principles, not plans. He trained his mind to think in frameworks rather than fixed sequences. This meant when the unexpected happened, and it always did, he didn't freeze or panic. He adapted instantly while maintaining strategic clarity. There's a remarkable account from the Battle of Hydaspes against King Porus. Alexander faced war elephants for the first time, massive beasts that terrified his horses and soldiers. Traditional military doctrine had no answer, but Alexander's mind didn't need doctrine. He had trained himself to spot patterns and create solutions in real time. Within minutes, he designed a completely new tactical approach, turning elephants from the enemy's advantage into their fatal weakness. This is what separates good performers from legendary ones, the ability to hold strategic vision while remaining tactically fluid. In today's business world, we see this in companies like Apple pivoting from computers to phones to services. Same vision empower individuals through technology, completely different tactics. That's adaptive certainty, and it's Alexander's framework playing out in Silicon Valley. But here's the mental training that made it possible. Alexander practiced something we'd now call scenario flexibility training. He would gather his commanders and run wargames with intentionally impossible scenarios. What if we're outnumbered 10 to 1? What if we lose our supply lines? What if the terrain is against us? And they'd have to create winning solutions on the spot, training their minds for adaptive thinking under pressure. The modern equivalent? Entrepreneurs who ask, what if our main revenue stream disappeared tomorrow? Athletes who train in chaotic, unpredictable conditions. Anyone who's training their brain to maintain performance when variables change. That's not stress, that's mental conditioning for high performance. Your traditional education system taught you to memorize answers. Alexander's training taught him to build answer-generating systems. See the difference? One approach prepares you for known challenges. The other prepares you for reality, which is inherently unpredictable. And in a world changing faster than ever, adaptive certainty isn't optional anymore. It's survival. Think about your current goals. Are you locked into rigid plans that will crumble when reality shifts? Or are you building mental frameworks that can adapt while maintaining direction? That's the question that determines whether you'll thrive or merely survive. Comment adapt. If you're committing to adaptive certainty over rigid planning, what's one area of your life where you need more strategic flexibility? Don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who needs this mental upgrade. What if Alexander's identity-first strategy is the missing piece in your performance? Let's talk about something most people completely miss when studying Alexander. He didn't build an empire and then become great. He became great first. Then the empire was inevitable. This sequence is everything, and it's the exact opposite of how most people approach success today. Alexander didn't wake up thinking, I want to conquer territories. He woke up embodying the identity of someone who unites civilizations. That's a massive distinction. When you lead with identity instead of goals, your actions become expressions of who you are, not desperate attempts to become someone different. This shift alone eliminates 90% of the internal resistance that kills most people's high performance. Here's a wild example. When Alexander reached the city of Gordium, he encountered the famous Gordian knot. Legend said whoever untied it would rule Asia. Hundreds had tried and failed. Alexander looked at it for a moment, then cut it in half with his sword. People debate whether that was cheating, but they're missing the point entirely. Alexander wasn't trying to prove he could untie knots. He already knew he would rule Asia. The knot was irrelevant. He was acting from identity, not trying to achieve identity. Compare this to modern goal-setting psychology. Most people set a goal like, I want to build a successful company, then try to act their way into that identity. Alexander did the reverse. He embodied, I am a world uniter first. Then his actions naturally aligned with that identity. No internal conflict, no self-doubt, just expression of existing identity. This is what top performers in every field understand intuitively. Kobe Bryant didn't try to become great. He decided he was the best and then played accordingly. Serena Williams doesn't try to win tournaments. She shows up as a champion. And winning is just what champions do. This isn't arrogance. It's identity-based performance. And it's scientifically proven to be more sustainable than goal-based motivation. The mechanism is powerful. When you act from identity, you're not depleting willpower trying to become someone else. You're simply being yourself. That's effortless in a way that goal-chasing never is. And it's why Alexander could sustain excellence for 13 straight years of campaigning without burning out. He wasn't trying to become great. He was expressing greatness that already existed internally. So here's the question that will change everything. What identity do you need to embody first, before pursuing your goals? If you already were the person who achieved your dream, how would that person think, decide, and act today? Not tomorrow. Today. That's where transformation begins. Type identity if you're ready to lead with who you are, instead of chasing what you want. What identity are you claiming? Starting now? Subscribe to this channel, and let's keep uncovering these performance secrets together. How Alexander's integration over domination philosophy builds lasting empires. Here's the part of Alexander's story that most people get completely wrong. He wasn't trying to conquer the world. He was trying to unite it. This mental framework difference is absolutely critical because it changed everything about how he operated and why his influence lasted centuries after his death. When Alexander conquered a new territory, he did something unprecedented. He integrated their culture instead of destroying it. He married local women, adopted local customs, incorporated foreign soldiers into his army, and respected local religions. His generals thought he was crazy. Traditional conquest meant imposing your culture and erasing theirs. But Alexander's mind operated on a completely different principle. Synthesis creates more power than domination. Think about this strategically. When you dominate people, you create resistance that drains your energy maintaining control. When you integrate them, you multiply your strength because they become willing participants in your vision. Alexander understood that forced compliance is expensive and fragile. Voluntary alignment is cheap and antifragile. That's next-level strategic thinking. There's a powerful story about how Alexander handled the Persian nobility after defeating them. Instead of executing or exiling them standard practice, he appointed capable Persian administrators to help govern. He wore Persian clothing to public events. He learned their language. His Greek commanders protested, accusing him of betraying Macedonian culture. But Alexander saw something they didn't. By honoring what people valued, he transformed enemies into allies without a single additional battle. This integration philosophy has direct applications in modern high performance. The best leaders don't crush competing viewpoints, they synthesize them into stronger solutions. The most innovative companies don't destroy competitors, they acquire and integrate them. Top performers don't ignore their weaknesses, they integrate opposite strengths. Same principle, different context. But here's the deeper layer. Alexander applied this integration principle internally too. He didn't try to eliminate his flaws or suppress parts of himself he didn't like. He integrated everything into a coherent whole. His aggression and his compassion, his ambition and his humility, his confidence and his curiosity. This internal integration is what created such powerful external impact. Divided internally, you're weak externally. Integrated internally, you're unstoppable. The question for you isn't whether you can dominate your goals, it's whether you can integrate all the elements needed for sustainable success. Can you integrate discipline with flexibility, ambition with patience, confidence with learning? That integration creates compound performance that domination alone never could. Alexander built an empire that lasted 300 years after his death because he built it on integration, not force. What are you building? And more importantly, are you building it in a way that will outlast you? Write integrate in the comments if you're choosing synthesis over domination. What opposing forces in your life are you going to integrate? Starting today, like this video, share it with your network, and subscribe because we're just getting started and covering these ancient performance codes. Disclaimer: this content is for educational and inspirational purposes, based on historical analysis and personal development principles. The concepts should be adapted to your individual circumstances.